But yeah, no, we're wrapping up the Pistons discussion. I really like what they've done. I really like the Duncan Robinson thing. I think it's gonna unlock DNC ENT. People don't know how YouTube works, Neil. Shh. Sorry, did I give away the company secret?
Yep.
Are we doomed?
Crack the code.
Are we doomed? It sounds cool, Neil. Okay. But anyway, though, I like what they're doing. There seems to be a unison within the organization. And look, D-Mac, I don't want to get too deep into this, but some of the Malik Beasley stuff's coming out right now. And just debts to promotionals, agency teams and stuff like that for advances. And look, I'll say it like this. Things change for Malik Beasley very, very quickly. And D-Mac, I always say how the spot track and the contracts can be your guide as to what's happening. I think with Malik Beasley, to go from $14 million a year to $2 million a year at 26, when you probably weren't prepared for that, you know what I'm saying? Can be a jolting experience, certainly if you're living a lifestyle a certain kind of way. The man's going through a divorce and things like that, which probably tells you that there are some other expenditures. And I don't want to make excuses for the guy. I don't. But I will say this. Before we go pile on this guy and what's happened to him in his life financially, it's easy for us to say, we haven't been there. That's all. And I'll leave it at that.
A lot of you haven't. I have.
Darren McCarty.
I've been there. ...
Yeah. You've been open about this too.
Yeah,
You wrote about it in a book and all that kind of stuff. You're living proof of this.
100 million %. I mean, when this came out, it's not as shocking, and a lot of it has to do with, for me is not having. It's all my responsibility too, whatever. But I'm a different person than I was back then.
We all are.
The perspective and people that I surrounded myself with, turned out not to have my interests at heart. And it seems some of the case here, but there is the gambling part or whatever else, you get into it deep. And I think like you said, Neil, the lifestyle sort of it got away before it got under control. And I mean, it explains the money and the why and why the gambling allegations and stuff, trying to get out of it. And then you hear about, dentists having, people having his, NBA pay,
garnishing his pay
and stuff. So there's some, it's some serious stuff, and it's stuff that, I empathize with them. I've been through a lot of that stuff. I mean, you got to remember, I went through the bankruptcy and all that different stuff, and hopefully just he's got a lot of stuff coming down on him right now, and just hopefully he's getting some good advice and good people. I fought back. It took a while to fight out of it, but it's also too is that's why I preach self-awareness, because I didn't have very much.
Yeah.
Right. Of perspective to reality. Right. So reality's hit him really hard, but if he's anything of the person that he is, the basketball player, he's resilient. So he's got to be as resilient now. And
it's
one of those things, unless you've been in those shoes. But it can get away real quick. I mean, it's not, and yes, that's an exorbitant amount of money, but it really, when it starts pitfall and you start chasing things, and whether it's gambling or lifestyles and stuff like this to try to keep up with different things and trying to, you get into other things that aren't as secure and safe because you're still trying to make up for other things, and it just spirals down. And so, I'm going to say a prayer and hopefully, that that these are things that he can bounce back from, and we will hear, a good ending out of this.
Adis 411 Beasley, get a damn financial advisor. Again, easy for
how do you
us
not
to
know
say, and how do you
that
not know
the financial advice, a lot of this time, what every financial advisor is good? Let me tell you, no, they're not. No, they're not. So get the right financial advisor. Get the right people in your career. It doesn't matter what it is. Do it right.
And here's something too, like there are guys that have kind of weaseled their way into the approved leagues have like a list. I would assume
they didn't used to.
They didn't used to
with agents and everything
Yeah.
else, and then now it's credible. And you know what? That's the difference between where I look back is that and no, we don't all have the same guys representing us or doing that stuff. I mean, you know, I know where I made the mistakes and should have gone with a different person. But these things happen. It's just like life. Like, look at it in your own situation with people you run in different situations, whether it's work, you know, going to get a service done. You know, you got to get your car done, get your brakes done. You know what I mean? Cost you $1,000, and the guy do a good job. Is he dependably going to go back, or you got to go get him fixed again in a month?
Right.
You know, like it's just life. And I think that let's just wait to hear everything that comes out, because it will come out. And right now, I just choose to have compassion.
And I guess, D-Mac, because again, you've been open about it, you've talked about it in your book, and you know you've talked about it publicly. If you had a piece of advice right now for Malik Beasley, what would it
like,
be?
It's like anything else, right? There's no as far as digging a hole or whatever, there's no end. It'll keep going until you face it and just sort of stop and say, okay, this is everything that's going on. Like you mentioned divorce, and you mentioned now is, you know, trying to find a contract or stuff like this. It's just, you got to, now the fact that the gig's sort of up, you just got to come clean with everything else. I don't sense maliciousness.
I don't either. Like that's,
you know what I'm saying?
I don't.
And
it just was one of those.
I didn't
things,
have
yeah.
maliciousness in all mine, but I also know where I chose to not trust other people that I should have their advice, right? And trusting the wrong people because my intentions weren't pure, right? Not
At
to
that
do
time,
it the
yeah.
wrong way, but just in the lifestyle that I was in, it was just, and you get caught up on it. When you get caught, like, it's the whole thing is like, when I say like the D-Mac to Darren comparison, like, knew who D-Mac was when I was 6, took me to 4 to 6 to meet Darren. Now, difference is Darren runs the show. D-Mac's still there, comes out, but it's self-awareness. So I'm a big thing about redemption and finding out what you're all about, and it's in the worst of times. We'll see what it's all about, but just you gotta, you know, come clean and then that's where, Neil, I think I just take the temperature, and I just think that he just got caught with the wrong people and the wrong thing, other than he was being malicious. Like if this was like a guy like Antonio Brown or somebody else, well, yeah, this
Like
is
a
all
goofball, yeah.
like just the way that he acts. I don't get that vibe from Malik Beasley. I don't get that vibe from the people like him and his teammates and stuff like this. It's just unfortunate that doesn't matter what you do. Sometimes this life's gonna throw these things at you.
Yeah. So again, it's and I told the story too. That guy Matt Beasley seems to be suffering from a condition called dummy syndrome that happens continuously, it seems. Well, that guy Matt, like, again, man, for him, like D-Mac was trying to tell you, you know, like this does happen. It happened to him, and he shares the story. And
Yeah,
it's not,
and I take responsibility for it. And even like I know where, but it wasn't like, and it's about like when what he has to do, right? Just face that the fact take responsibility.
This is the reality. Yeah.
Take a responsibility for how your not the stupidity, but the trust and whatever else. I bet you can tell you why I did this because of this, and because I thought it would bring this. That's where he's wrong, and that's where you need right people around you. That's why it's always a lot of things. What do you find? And you find this a lot in hockey is that guys that you grew up with, right? To stay tight to the guys you grew up with because they know who you are.